Hello, everyone. My name is Sean Walters. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Investments and Wealth Institute. I thank you for being here today. We're talking about the CIMA certification program, and we're talking, I hope, primarily to candidates who've already been accepted into the CIMA certification program. And some of you have completed some steps in the certification process. Others may have just be getting started. Still others might have been candidates for a while and have been putting off getting rolling, and now you're at that stage where you're ready to get rolling. So this is really designed for all three types of candidates. We're going to talk about changes to the program that commenced in June of 2018, what these processes changes mean to you, some of the content changes that are coming about as a result, and then some study resources. So let's get started. First thing, I thank you for your pursuit of the CIMA certification. It is a global standard for investment consultants, investment advisors, investment analysts. It is perhaps more relevant than ever as a result of some of the changes we've made to the certification process. The job analysis was the primary driver behind these changes, and what a job analysis is ultimately we went out to the field, about 2,000 plus practitioners around the world responded to a survey which asked them what are the most important knowledge and skills in order to perform your job as an investment consultant or an investment advisor at a highly competent level. And then based on those results, our CIMA Certification Commission revised the curriculum, the exam, and the process. And so let's start with the process. This process has been simplified from 5 steps to 4. The commission felt that the qualification and certification exams should be combined into a single comprehensive exam, which is administered now at the end of the process. And then the content changes were sent along to registered education providers earlier this year, and their programs have now been modified as of June 1. The certification exam has been modified as well, and it will roll out on August 1st. The process. So now when you are considering the CIMA certification, step 1 is application. And every one of you on the call has checked off that step. You submitted a program application, you passed a background check, you're in, like Flynn, and you're off and rolling. So now the next step for you is to go to education, to choose one of our education provider partners and complete that registered education program. The examinate, once you do that and they tell us that you've successfully passed all the components of their education, then you're eligible to sit for the CIMA certification exam. And then once you pass that, you're really at the last step, which is an administrative step, online, all conducted online, demonstrating your 3 years experience, passing the background check, paying your initial certification fee, and completing your license agreements. So let's talk briefly about that. The next step, some of you may have already completed the education component. So if you have not, that's really what's available to you now. You can schedule to attend the Wharton School, the Chicago booth, Yale School of Management. If you're in Australia, there's a program called the Investment Management Research Program that's offered in Sydney. So whether or not you've passed the qualification exam, you are now eligible to attend that executive education program. And you can use our website, click on the links to them, and schedule. You'll be paying the education provider directly. So that's really if you've already completed this, then you move straight into the examination. So we'll talk about that next. Your next option after you complete education is to schedule your exam. You really don't need to wait until you complete the education requirement. Let's say you're looking ahead at a Wharton class that may be conducted in October. You can schedule your exam for November and get it on the books. Pearson will often, Pearson testing centers, depending on the city, can have high demand. So it's just good to get your exam time booked in advance. You can always change it if it turns out that you can't make that time or you don't feel that you're going to complete the education before then. So that's really the next. Those are the 2 steps. If you haven't taken education, go ahead and schedule it. If you have, then it's definitely time for you to schedule your certification exam and go ahead and get that on the calendar now. So the content changes. A lot of people maybe have passed the qualification exam already. you're concerned that you're going to be taking a longer 5-hour exam after August 1st. I understand the concern. It is another hour of seat time in the Pearson Testing Center. However, if you've passed the qualification exam, you've already mastered a good portion of what's going to be covered on this new combined test. And it's important that you study the exam blueprint, which we'll talk about in a second, to make sure you're ready for that, and use a test prep provider to help yourself get ready, and just go for it. It's really very similar content to what was tested prior to August 1st and what's taught in the classroom prior to June 1st. I would say our education folks and our certification folks say it's about a 10% or less change in the overall scope of the content, the detail of the content. This slide kind of lays out, we've really consolidated more than anything and simplified the knowledge domains from 6 to 5. The portfolio construction and consulting process now includes ethics, fiduciary principles and guidelines. Those were covered before, but they're just included in a different domain now. There was always questions around passive investment vehicles and strategies, but they've been reorganized and a new section has been added called investment philosophies and styles. So it's just more thought process around the investment construction process, portfolio construction process. And then the one new section of content is ESG, impact investing, and socially responsible investing. It is not a major change. I would say it's probably fewer than 3% of the exam will be on this new topic, maybe even in the lower end of that. The behavioral finance was always tested and will again be tested. It's just grown a little bit in its weighting. So you might see a couple more questions on behavioral finance than you would have prior to August 1st. And then there's this new section called real assets, which was always in the exam before. It was just split out as a new section. So all told, when you look at the body of knowledge, this is really what it looks like. 15% on fundamentals, 20% on all types of investments, 20% on portfolio theory and behavioral finance. More on behavioral finance in that domain, by the way, than portfolio theory. Risk and return, there's always a lot on risk, portfolio risk management in the CIMA program. And then this last domain includes ethics, and then it goes through that portfolio construction process, client discovery, investment policy statements, portfolio construction, manager search, and then a review and revision. So very, very similar content in that last section, what you may have studied for in the past for the CIMA program. This kind of lays out it in a nice flower process of these 5 domains that really comprise the CIMA process today. And look, we wanted to put this in the presentation as well. There's 3 really good prep provider programs today: Kaplan, Wiley, and Beta Educational Services, which is Pierre Lemaire's program. All 3 are very experienced at helping candidates complete certification programs and should be considered as you look at prepping for the August 1st examination. One last thing I want to say on the exam, definitely should move through this process, get as much of it under your belt as you can, get ready and take that new examination starting August 1st. The way our certification process works is once you take the exam, you will not receive a preliminary score during your exam sitting in August, because this is a new administration of revised and combined examination. So our volunteers have to look at the test results from the first 100 or so people who've taken it and set a cut score. And then once that cut score is set, we notify you of the results. And the process takes about 4 to 6 weeks all told. So we should have that all back by mid to late September. And I appreciate you all's kind of being involved in the process and being willing to learn a little bit more about how you can continue to advance through the CIMA certification program. We very much appreciate that this is it's a daunting challenge for some, but you've already taken the hardest step, which is getting started. And now it's just a matter of of just, putting nose to the grindstone and heading on through the rest of the process. And so thank you. And if you ever have any questions, our certification team is always available for your benefit. You feel free to call us or email us, and we're willing to help you really get through this candidate process. That's all I've got. Thank you. If you have questions, email them to the email address on this screen, certification@iw.org. Thank you. Talk to you soon.